all of that preliminary and we'll do a new start over. Okay. All right. So welcome everybody. Today is March the 3rd, 2023. And the stuff coming out of South Carolina is crazy. Right? As crazy as my little mouse sounds. Now, Pussycat says it should have gotten death, but they took the death penalty off the table before this even began, before they began, with hearings and testimony. They took death penalty off the case. I actually approved of that personally myself. My opinion was that was a great move. And I think one of the reasons that it was a really great move is because this is a family of prominence. I know it's irritating, but just bear with me. This is a family of prominence, right? Not only currently business owners and attorneys, what we consider pillars of the community, the blue bloods. Not only that, but it's multi-generational. And we heard the judge today, it was quite shocking. We heard the judge say that when all of this got started, he walked into the courtroom, to be the judge of record. And he looks up and guess who's hanging on the wall in the courtroom? Yeah. The man himself. No, not Alec Murdaugh, but the grandpa, the big guy. Yeah, not that big guy, but the big guy in South Carolina. He was a judge. He's literally on the wall in the courtroom and he's sitting there and he's going, damn. Well, now he didn't say this, but this is what my imagination tells me he says. He stops cold in his track and he looks at the picture and he goes, damn. Well, this is going to be embarrassing. And I don't think that grandpa wants to sit up there and watch what's about to happen to his beloved grandchild. So, bailiff, remove the picture. Can we get somebody else important to up there on that wall? Like someone. I know. Let's put up a portrait of Zelensky, shall we? No, he didn't say that. But again, that's the kind of dark and twisted place my brain is. So I apologize for that. Okay, now then, please understand. The Big Buster. Yes, it was the Big Buster that was up on the wall. Okay. And no, the judge did not suggest Zelensky. That was a joke, people. Try to keep up, okay? It's just a joke, and it's a dark and twisty place in my mind, but at least it's not boring. Can we get at that? If you think it's not boring, put a 1. That would be helpful. His wife is so beautiful. It's sad she married a monster. Absolutely. Absolutely agree, Zelda. Terrible, right? Now, I thought the judge said something very interesting and profound from a psychological point of view. We're going to listen to what he says, as he's sentencing Murdaugh. But I thought his comment about the man who killed Maggie and Paul wasn't the man in the courtroom. Did y'all hear that? Thank you, Mississippi. Yes, as BBT says, how does she call it? Thank you, my thugs. I think she calls her subscribers thugs. It's kind of funny. Well, not in a dark and spooky way, but in kind of a funny, lighthearted way. So he says, the man that killed Paul and Maggie perhaps was not the man, standing in the courtroom today. And I kind of took a double take when he said that. And I thought, what? But what he was addressing was that the high level of opiates that this guy supposedly enjoying, facetiously said, the high dose opiates that he was on, the length of time that he was on probably contributed to a breakdown of his P450 system in the liver, meaning he was reaching higher concentrations of the same drug without escalating his dose. That all of that together, that opiates can change the character of the person. Now, it doesn't change the DNA, the human being, the physical body of the person in the room. He's talking about the character, the personality, the ethics, the morality of the drug taker. And I wanted to applaud him in that moment. I've said before, for example, let me think of an example: the Batman shooter. Who remembers the Batman shooter? Holmes, right? I can't think of his first name. James Holmes. Um, what we know about James Holmes after the fact is that he too had begun to take opiates, prescription opiates, not heroin, but or fentanyl, but prescription medication. He had begun taking that. He was also visiting hookers, and he during the weeks leading up to the shooting at the Aurora Theater, he had escalated his dose, the amount of pills that he was taking. It was a shocking amount. And he talks now in later, years after he was arrested and in prison, he talks about feeling numb, that he was taking such high doses that he didn't, no matter what was going on, there was no emotion. So as he's standing there and he's shooting these people, he didn't really have any fear. There was no fear, sadness. He said it was just a bit like a robot. There was not really anything there. And the reason that he went out to his car and sat down on the sidewalk was because he knew they were coming for him, and he didn't really want to run. He didn't really care. Now, once he goes through detox and he's no longer has access to those poisons, then he had a lot of emotion. He was very sad about what he had done. He was horrified by the loss of life and the effects that it had, on the people in the community, the loss his parents experienced, all of it. So I do like that the judge brings this up, that you cannot take this class of medication at accelerated dosages, building up your tolerance, and you're not using it for legitimate pain control. You're using it to be intoxicated, right? And so as you develop tolerance, which happens very quickly, you're having to increase your dosage every week or 2 weeks. And there's consequences to that because of the effect it has on the neurotransmitters. It's your neurotransmitters that make it, the amygdala makes it possible to experience emotion, your frontal lobe, your prefrontal lobe, giving it meaning, right? And if you're taking all this medication, you are basically doing this slow roll lobotomy. I know it's a weird idea, but it's a physical phenomenon. And so you're taking a great deal of this, and soon people on very high doses will talk about there's nothing there. There's no emotion. It's a bit like being on a mood stabilizer, overdosing on mood stabilizers. Mood stabilizers are great. Please don't overreact to my words. Mood stabilizers will save your life with certain conditions, and they will give you an opportunity for normality, that is experiencing normal happiness, good happiness, normal sadness, good sadness, rather than these very extreme that we often see with bipolar 1. But if you overdose on mood stabilizer, you just become quite numb and you're not aware, of changes in emotion. You're robotic. And so I thought that the judge talking about that, I thought that was profound. And I thought it was very important for people to think about if they are abusing their prescription medications. There's a safe dose, and you should honor that dose, because there are severe consequences when you begin mucking around with psychotropic medications at a high level, right? Now then, getting back on point, he said that the guy standing in the courtroom wasn't the guy that killed them, but nonetheless, it's the same physical body that did it. Okay. So while I thought that was important because it helps us as we're grappling with the insanity of all that we've been exposed to. over the past 28 days. And some of us longer, because a lot of us were following this case before it ever reached trial. It's been going on for a couple of years, right? With the whole Mallory Beach thing, and then they opened the case, the investigation with Stephen Smith. And so it's all kind of, a lot of people have been fully immersed in South Carolina good old boy system for quite some time. So I really liked that the judge said that, because it helps us, me and you, it helps us manage the idea from this picture here. Although I see a problem in this picture, I'm going to point it out. But seeing this picture balanced with the guy at the defense table and his beloved child and wife dead. I also find it incredibly interesting that Buster, at his very young age, seems to have absolutely mastered the art of, what do I want to call it? Detachment, to a level that would make any mob boss proud, right? It's crazy what he's able to do in terms of his bottling up his emotions. I do see a little bit of a problem. Some of you may not. And admittedly, this is wild speculation Friday. So don't come for me, flying monkeys. Don't. All right. Now then, here's my problem on Wild Speculation Friday. If it were any other day of the week, I wouldn't say this. But it's Wild Speculation Friday. If you love Wild Speculation Friday, put any emoji you want. I don't care what it is. If you love Wild Speculation Friday, put an emoji. And now here's the problem I see in this picture. Look down. I know this is going to freak you out a little bit. Look down at about where Murdaugh's belly button might be. And then follow over to the right, where you see Maggie Murdaugh's arm going back behind Alex's waist. You see that? Everybody see that? What do you see between her arm and her own waist or rib cage? That's a whole lot of air, isn't it? You look at Paul. Paul's right up next to Dad. He's comfortable. Maggie, in fact, I wish we could see the rest of the picture, because she almost looks like her hips may be a little bit further away from him, but just kind of leaning in the shoulders. Why? Maybe it was a great day. Maybe they were having fun. Maybe they're just, it was quick picture. I can go with that. But it's Wild Speculation Friday, and these are the sorts of things that I pay attention to when I am speculating. So I don't know. I do think that her sister was trying to be very measured, not to seem vindictive or angry, because that might give somebody a reason not to believe her testimony, correct? But every now and then something would slip through, and it was almost some disappointment, maybe, that Alec turned out to do what he did. For example, here, let me give you a quick example why that I'm saying this. Remember when she's talking about that Maggie calls her and says, well, Alec wants me to come because of his dad, right? Remember that? But what does she say? Does she say, oh, okay, so you're going, okay, well, that'd be great. No. She said, and this was the very word used, encouraged. Who heard him say, I encouraged her? And she actually got kind of sad, so regretful, second guessing herself, thinking, damn it, I wish I'd kept my mouth shut. Yep. She told her to go. There you go, Martin. Right? maybe the idea being, if she hadn't gone that day, she'd still be alive. But you and I don't believe that, right? If this guy had decided upon this plan of action, this course of action, anything could have happened. Okay, so I don't think she should carry guilt with her. I think she did what she was trying to do. I think she was trying to do the right thing. But for Wild Speculation Friday, it was interesting to me because I thought to myself, you had to encourage her to go. Because I'm going to tell you this right straight up. If Bill's mom or dad, for some reason, were very, very sick, I would immediately go back. Immediately. There wouldn't be any encouraging me, convincing me. In the vernacular of the peasantry, forcing me. It would not be any of that. It would just be like, oh wow, we have a medical emergency in the family. I'm going. Because it's what we do, right? Especially if you're from the South. I've never lived. Have I lived up north? Oh, I lived in West Virginia. Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, no, probably everybody. Somebody has a medical problem. You jump up and you go to support your family or be with your family member that's sick, correct? But that is not that. Yeah, Buster's lucky he was gone. That's exactly right, Martin. So I thought that was interesting, the words that were used. I encouraged her to go and be with him. Or how about this one? Alec always wanted Maggie with him. Did y'all pick up on that? Because what do we know is the most dangerous time for women that are in an abusive relationship? What's the most dangerous time? According to the FBI, when is the most likely time that domestic abuse can turn lethal? Yeah. When they finally leave. When they finally had enough, said, I'm done. I'm out of here, Jack. Right? So I think, there were some comments that were made that were not inflammatory, but quite measured. But if we really think about what we know, it's a little bit disconcerting. Maybe a codependent relationship. I don't know. I think what's going on, I think Alec Murdaugh, I think I could make a video. I think I could make a YouTube channel with only Alec Murdaugh. And I could probably keep that channel going for a year. Only talking about Murdaugh and his incongruent statements and behaviors and emotions. He's a work of art. That's all I got to say. He's different. He's not like the rest of us. And I'm a little bit thrown off by Buster's ability to lock it down, man. He's just shump. There's no emotion coming out. It's fascinating. It's very, very interesting. Please don't say that I'm implying there's anything wrong with that. Well, let me just go on. Did he learn that? Did he have to learn not to let that out because there was a lot going on in the house to hide? Hey, Martin, absolutely. Here's the difference. Alec learned to use his gee shucks, gee whiz kind of good old boy, slap on the back. Hey, we're friends, man. We friends and we're home folks. We got to look out for each other, right? We home folks. We're looking out for one another. He learned, he did the whole Bill Clinton thing where he really learned how to use that gregarious, outgoing, extroverted, personality. And it became a shield for what now looks to be just an outright criminal enterprise, in my opinion. I think there's more big guys to fall, if you know what I mean. So anyway, this whole thing that's played, this drama that's played out the last couple of days in the courtroom between the sentencing, which I'm going to show a little bit of today, and then the guilty verdict. That's really the heart of this video today, people. And so, if you want to share this on your social media and say, hey, come over, we're talking about, the verdict and the guilty phase and all that, do it, because I got to be heard, man. This is really bothering me. So the first thing that I want to share with you guys, bear with me. I was thinking about doing, where's my Canva? There we go. I was thinking about a bit of a different introduction. And it was going to be this, and I ultimately, at the last minute, scrapped that idea. Not at the last minute, last night. I scrapped that idea and said, no, that's not, this isn't what I want. This isn't the way I want to do it. But I do want to show this because it does illustrate my thought process for why I find the guilty verdict so shocking. And I'm trying to go with this number thing. Okay, so bear with me. From zero to hero, when I'm talking about the jurors, right? If the jurors go with what you believe, then they're heroes. But if the jurors go with something you don't believe, then we all think, oh, they're so dumb, they're stupid, look at them. Think about Nicholas Cruz and the fact that the jurors refused to give a death penalty. There was a great deal of outrage. Okay, so they were zeros on that day. But this jury, the Murdaugh jury, they're heroes overnight. Boom. They go from a life of obscurity to being the superheroes of South Carolina, right? They got justice for Paul and Maggie. So stick with the numbers here. That's what's got me freaked out. That's what I'm so freaked out about, are the numbers. From zero to hero, 28 days of trial. And I don't think that includes weekends. 25 days of testimony, 75 witnesses. 181 minutes to a verdict. That's 3.1 hours, people. What? 75 witnesses? 25 days of testimony and hearings. 25 days of information, 8 hours a day. That's, and there was science, there was DNA, there was gunshot residue, there was trajectory, there was height, speculation. There were medical examiners arguing back and forth. I mean, this was stuff that would, even a really intelligent person, you had to really think about what they were saying. You had to really squint your eyes and go, hold on a minute, what does he mean? What's he talking about? Let me play. What does this look like in my head? And there is a video by, hold on, the mob crew that will be, that's what I want to talk about, like on my next live, which will be this weekend. It will not be next week. The mob crew put out a great video addressing this, trajectory and DNA and where it was located and how do you turn that into a story. This was difficult, y'all. What about all the cell phone stuff? Difficult. GPS? Difficult. This was difficult information. 75 witnesses. And we were all, well, I know I was, let me be honest here. I was looking at the calendar, and I was looking at the days, and I was going, okay, now if they come back with a verdict on Tuesday, I'm completely out of pocket. So that I don't want that. Or maybe I could change my Tuesday work to next Friday, because surely they'll have a verdict by next Tuesday. But what if they don't? What if they get bogged down? It looks like it's going to be a hung jury. It could come back like on Thursday or maybe Friday. Maybe I need to do 2 half days so that You see what I mean? I'm planning for a long haul. I mean, I was ready to buy snacks and dig in and wait. How many of us said, "Oh, this could be a hung jury." If you guys legit thought hung jury, a real possibility of a hung jury, put a 1 or an emoji, something just to respond. Yes, I had considered what if. 5'2" assassins come without guns, Nick Yak, without guns. Thank you very much. And they say, "Oh, look, we can use family guns." There's a lot of missing clothing, according to Blanca, sorry. Known lying, admitted lying, asking others to lie. Southern people, no nonsense. All right. And Nick Yak, are you in my head? Are you psychic, Nick Yak? Because that's kind of what the whole goal of this live is. It's just what you've said. And that is, if you were working on jury consultant in this case, would you have taken it? Well, let's do it this way. Let me see. If you're a jury consultant and you were working on this case, what would be the top thing you would want the attorneys to consider for the jurors? What do you think was one of the most powerful influences that a juror would have for this Murdaugh case? I felt a possibility too, Annette. Yeah, I did too. Mag and Paw solved the case with the Bubba video. Agreed. That was it. And I made the video. It's called Regret. Yep. I said, this is it. It's over right here today. What do y'all think? If you're a jury consultant, what would be one factor, one of the top, not all together, but the one factor you would say cannot be ignored for the jury that you would pick? People are adverse to powerful people. Okay, so people that don't buy into the whole money, notoriety thing, I guess. Okay, y'all aren't answering my question, but that's okay. I can roll with that. Okay, for me, I think that they could not ignore the Bible Belt issue, right? I think it's that area of the country, the area itself, but then it's also, are we talking about rural or urban? Is this big city, New York, or is this, a place off the beaten path in a flyover state? Correct? So I think if I were working as a jury consultant, I would say to the attorneys, listen, people, whatever jury you place, you're not going to be able to ignore the influence from childhood. I'm talking about, we come into the world being taught about what makes God happy and what we should avoid doing because it'll make God sad. If you grew up in one of those homes, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about hellfire and brimstone. I'm talking about just, no, you don't lie. It's wrong to lie. It's a sin. You got to be sweet. You got to tell the truth, right? And that's kind of how it starts when we're children. And so my advice to the attorneys, very right out the gate, before you ever see the first potential juror, is, you say you're not going to be able to ignore the fact that this is a group of people that have been washed in the blood, baby. They're believers. They know the Bible, they can quote the Bible, and they believe the Bible. And you've got to think about what you're doing that can influence and trigger them, because you might accidentally trigger them in the wrong way. So be very careful. Find out about how often they go to church. Find out, where do they live? Do they live in one of the towns? Were they educated in one of the larger universities? Like, who are these people? Okay. So that would have been my first thing. And the reason I say that is this. What do you think was one of the first things that the attorneys, the prosecution came out screeching and yelling? And I was like, boom, point made right there. You just communicated with every person on that jury, whether they are thinking guilty or not guilty, or I have no idea. You just communicated with them. You just put them on your team, guy. You know what it was? When they came out and they said, don't attack SLED. Don't attack our sheriff's department. Don't attack our cops, damn it. Why do I say that? Because the Bible Belt, the rural community, these are law and order communities. Do you agree or disagree? Put a 1 if you agree. Put a 2 if you disagree. People that live out in the country, that go to church every Sunday, these are people who say we are law and order. We do not want criminals running our streets, and therefore we support our cops. We hold up the blue line, babe. Am I right or wrong? There you go. There you go. So regardless, even if this jury is looking at Murdaugh and they are thinking, man, you are the slime of all slimes. You are the worst thing to ever happen to Maggie Murdaugh. Doesn't matter if they felt like that Alec was 100% guilty, or if they were like, oh, wait a minute. He's crying, man. He's freaked out crying. He's really grieving. I don't think he did it. I think he got in a bad place. All those bad people rubbing shoulders as he's buying these drugs, you know. Obviously, he's washing money, working for the mob, perhaps. I hear he's really good friends with Bill and Hillary Clinton. That's true. He gave a lot of money to the Clintons. Okay. Maybe they were Arkansided, right? But even if you believe that he didn't pull the trigger, but he knows who did. If the prosecution comes out and says, how dare they attack our police? How dare they attack our law enforcement? You're there for that. You're like, that's right. True. Absolutely true. Don't attack our cops. Our cops are doing a very fine job of keeping our community safe. We're not having buildings burnt down in the middle of the night. No, we got we have great cops. Did you, Poot? Did you really just attack our cops? Are you really questioning? How dare you, Poot? Jim, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I know your mama. Right? Yeah, that's going on. You think that prosecution didn't know that? Of course they did. Of course they knew that. So they come right out and they're like, don't attack our law enforcement. Hands off, buddy. And I would have said that to Jim and Poot. I'd have said, don't do that. Don't start this situation where you've already got. Can you hear me now? My microphone's being strange, y'all. Do I sound like a mouse? Okay. With all the mistakes they convicted. Yeah, in spite of, thank you, Nick Yap. In spite of all the mistakes, it all did come out very well, correct? Let's put that out there. Okay. So number 1, don't attack the cops because of the area of the country that this Shakespearean drama played out. That was a fatal error by Jim and Poot. Fatal error. They never should have done that. Number 2, do not attack mothers and their children. Am I right or wrong? Every single one of us, no matter where we live, you take the life of a mother and their child, you're done. Sorry, turn off the fire. It's over. It's cooked. It's finished. Correct? So that was unwinnable. When you were talking about a mother and their dead child, it's unwinnable. The third, don't use drugs. Just say no. You want to know why? Because they're evil. Those opiates are evil, and they will make you evil too. Right? That was playing behind the scenes. That was a filter that the defense would have had to get through. But interestingly enough, so Martin, who is, a walking encyclopedia, Martin comes up and he says, oh, no. Fatal error was putting Murdaugh on the stand. I completely agree. My jaw hit the ground when they called him. Everybody's jaw hit the ground. The damn judge couldn't catch his breath, right? But when I go through these factors, then maybe, Poot and Jim didn't have any other choice. There was no defense for this guy. Can we all be honest? There was no defense. When they played that video and you could clearly hear him call in Buster. That was it. Game over. Regret. Okay. But look at what they had to get. These four factors. This is what I'm talking about. As I'm trying to understand deliberations, 3 hours, 181 minutes of not only deliberation, let me be clear here, deliberation and figuring out how to fill out the forms and double checking that their forms were right. These guys wanted it home by dinner time. You know what I'm talking about? They'd had enough. They were done. So it wasn't 180. Zelda, is that you calling me again? No. I'm messing with Zelda. Okay. No, that was 181 minutes of deliberation plus. And so they didn't deliberate for maybe 120 minutes, maybe 2 hours, maybe. I think it was less than that because the forms can be very confusing. Do you remember during the Johnny Depp trial, the jury actually filled the form out improperly? Remember that? The forms can be confusing. So no, 2 hours tops, maybe even 90 minutes. They get into the jury room, they sit down, and they go, wow, can we actually talk about it now? That's crazy. What did you think about it? Man, that was something. I can't even believe they put him on the stand, to tell you the truth. Don't you know? Wow, I never would have put him up on the stand. Okay, maybe we should take our first vote. So from that moment, I think even an hour tops. We in agreement? 10 minutes. Martin says, no, you're wrong, Jules. That was 10 minutes. Okay. So how did we go from 75 witnesses, 28 days of trial, to an hour or two of actual deliberation? I don't even think it was 2 hours, not even close. And then they come up with the verdict, right? And I think most of us said, they walked in, they said, let's take a preliminary vote. And everybody said guilty. What do you do then? Right? And so that's kind of what we all walked away thinking. It was immediately, they were all unanimous from the get-go. Now, so in the Bible Belt, very rural area, there were huge obstacles for Jim and Poot to overcome anyway. And they started with, don't attack our cops, which they did. In general, don't attack mothers and their children, because we are going to hold someone accountable, and the jury did. The third was, don't use drugs. Just say no. Drugs are evil, and they will make you evil too, right? That's what parents tell their kids when you live in the South, when you live in the flyover states. The focus on the drugs was interesting. there was a lot of focus on money too. And that goes to the whole antisocial part of his personality, I think. But from the jury's point of view, the things that were going to be very difficult to overcome, it became very believable. If he's taken 1,000 milligrams a day of opiates that are specifically either hydrocodone or oxycodone, Percocets, or what's the other one called? Percocets or Vicodin, then that's evil. And we know that's evil because the newspapers have been, and magazines and television, they had their war on opiates. There's been courtroom battles where doctors have lost their licenses, where pharmacists have been shut down. If they're evil, and we know they're evil because the television tells us they're evil. And so here's another truth, that this man took opiates, and the opiates caused him to kill his kid and his wife. So there's that filter playing in their minds that Jim and Poot have to break through. And then finally, and this I think was a big contributing factor to a 3-hour deliberation, and maybe the prosecution knew this, and it was, wear your jury out. Wear them down. Make them completely exhausted before you ever give them the case. This jury was down to one alternate. And I got to admit, on Wild Speculation Friday, I had a moment or two where I thought, I wonder if the fix is in. I wonder if this is intentional. I wonder if the mob has figured out a way to get these jurors thrown off, that they keep having these issues and they have to be removed and have to be removed. And even on the day of closing arguments, they lost another juror. They had one juror alternate left. One. That would have been a coup. If somehow they had been able to remove that final juror, then they would have had to have redone the trial. And you only get too many times to do that, right? So was it bad luck that they went through so many jurors? Was it the prosecution and their strategy in court that ended up drawing out the never-ending trial that resulted in exhaustion? Like what? How? Or was something happening behind the scenes to try to use up all the alternate jurors and have to have a mistrial and retry the case? Remember, if you will, please, the bomb threat. Why do I bring up the bomb threat? Because Alec smiled. Y'all remember that? The bomb threat, and Alec smiles. What in the world? What would make him smile because there was a bomb threat? I don't know. Was it jury intimidation? I agree. Yes, Martin, I agree. Was that part of witness intimidation? Scaring the jury? A bomb threat? What? Did they say bomb threat? Really? We have to leave the courthouse in the middle of the trial because there's a bomb? Is that true? Are y'all hearing that correct? Is there's a bomb? I don't know. I mean, I'm brave enough to give a guilty verdict to a Murdaugh, but nobody said anything about bombs. I don't think I want to be on this jury anymore if we got to worry about things blowing up. And then what happens? The Pennsylvania or Ohio East Palestine train derailment. Right? Weird. Wild Speculation Friday. It's my specialty. Okay. All right. So, no speculation here. Prosecution strategy, partial, perhaps wear them down. Wear them down. make them completely and totally exhausted, under threat of losing their job, relationships falling to pieces, children at home weeping, "Where's mommy? Mommy, why do you have to leave again?" Okay. Maybe, perhaps, did it work? I don't know. You tell me. 75 witnesses, and these guys deliberate for 181 minutes. Yeah. Okay. I think maybe it's part of it. How interested, let me ask you this. How interested can you be after you've sat there for 28 days? How interested can you be to say, okay, everybody, put your feet up because we got to go through all of this again? How? You can't, right? You can't. For those of you that work 40 hours a week, tell me what's going through your mind at about 12 o'clock on Friday. What's going through your mind? Are you focused? Are you thinking clearly about, oh, I hope Friday afternoon is nice and productive? I'm going to do my best work on Friday afternoon. No. Friday afternoon is for Twitter, right? Friday afternoon is for wandering the halls. Oh, hi, David. How are you? How are the kids doing? I bet you got a big weekend planned. Oh, yeah, me too. And in your mind, you're thinking, no, I've got a fresh bag of Doritos, and there are new movies out on Netflix. I am going to lay on my sofa like a slug and eat Doritos and watch Netflix, baby. Oh yeah, David, we got a big weekend too. Busy, you know. Some ways I'm just so glad Monday comes so I can rest. See you later, big guy. No one wants to go back to work on Monday to rest. No. So think about that. Your Friday afternoon, noon. What are you thinking? Man, I can't wait to get home. Ooh, I'm going to sleep late in the morning. No responsibilities on Saturday, right? Not this jury. Not this jury. This jury's given the case, and they're like, oh my God, you mean we just now get to work? Is that what they said? You mean the last 28 days hasn't been work? $5 a day for this? Now we have to work? So 28 days to present all this. How long is it going to take us to go back through all this crap? Oh, you know what? We're not even going to be home by Friday. I bet we won't even be back. Wait, what did you say? We have to deliberate on Saturday and Sunday too? Really? Oh, God. Well, maybe we need to take a preliminary vote. Okay. That's the way I see it in my brain, y'all. That's the way I see it. These people, I don't mean that they were irresponsible. Please don't get me wrong. I don't think they were irresponsible at all. I think they were damn troopers. They were troopers sitting through all this. But when it comes time to stand up and say, okay, y'all, I know y'all don't want to hear this. Please don't kill the messenger here. But can I remind you of where did all the blood go? There's got to be blood, doesn't there? I mean, you got one guy's telling us that the gun was a shotgun, no less, was like right on the skull. That was an awful lot like what happened to John F. Kennedy, right? So I've seen that happen. Like we've all seen the video of John F. Kennedy. He's shot from behind, but the back of the skull is bigger than the exit wound, which that's not what we associate with a gunshot wound, right? But it can happen because it's the skull. That's different than going through the body, through a soft tissue. That skull is very powerful, can contain a lot of force, and up on the top of the head where you've got where the plates all came together, those are actually quite weak. And so all that force that gets trapped within the skull cavity then pushes back out. It actually does happen. We saw it happen with John F. Kennedy's assassination. And everybody's looking at the person dumb enough to voice this in the jury room. It's just quiet across the table. And finally, the outspoken one in the group takes a deep breath and goes, "Are you crazy? What did you just say to us? Are you actually asking us to think? We don't want to think. We've been thinking for 28 days. Don't tell us that. I don't want to hear about it. I haven't, you know what? I have never seen the John F. Kennedy assassination tape. I don't have no idea what you're talking about. Let's take another vote, everyone." Right? I would not have wanted to be these people. They were exhausted. It was very easy. Trust me on this. It was very easy to look at this guy and go, guilty. Huh. In fact, I made the video. I made the video on that day. And my video says, the case is over. This is the day that Alec Murdaugh lost his case. I did. Why do I care about this? What you may be sitting there going, what? She's confused enough. What is she talking about? Zelda's on the phone right now calling Critters and Blonde PT. Why is Tool saying this? Does she think it was not guilty? Does she think they got it wrong? Is she throwing shade at this jury? Absolutely not. No. I think they got it right for sure. But here is why I'm a bit worried about it. Because it was less than 3-hour jury deliberation on a case that lasted 28 days, where there were some weaknesses. Can you say appeal? He's got some, there are a lot of issues for appeal. The minute that they allowed all of that information about the money, they had an appeals issue. And I know that what did the judge say? 99 other charges, 99 still pending, and he gets to be the judge on all of them. He just looked like, oh my God, I think retirement. Okay. He's like, I don't want to do this. 99. Okay. I don't know, y'all. If this jury only had to discuss the innocence or the guilt of this guy for less than 3 hours, did they need to add in all the money, the financial information, right? There are plenty of lawyers on YouTube that have said it was a bad decision because it opens up a clear path to an appeal, a successful appeal. Was it a trial within a trial, or was it 2 trials within another trial? There were actually three things that could have been litigated independently. So my concerns are with that 3-hour deliberation, my concerns are it just paved the way to a successful appeal. Yeah. I know Nick Yak is mad at me. But please stay with me. Okay, here's what we're going to do, Nick Yak. Hold on a second before you leave. And you can leave. I don't want you to leave, but let me do this, Nick Yak. Hold on. So, because I feel like I knew this was going to be an uncomfortable. I knew this was going to be an uncomfortable live, because you just want that vindication of he's guilty and we should be celebrating and we should be happy, and that's a good thing. And I agree 100%. It is, oh, happy days. And I squealed when they came back with guilty. I was excited and happy. but everybody's going to be excited and happy. I'm trying to offer content that is not a copycat of what everybody else is doing, right? To add something of value in terms of time spent watching my videos, something to think about. And so part of that is I'm legitimately, let's talk about the possibilities of a successful appeal based on such a limited deliberation. This video, Nackety Yak, was done on, well, 1 month ago, 4 weeks ago. I think within the video, it gives the date. So it's not very long. So let's just take a listen. Like I said, I do think I put the actual date. This is what it looks like to see the sun setting on a man's life. And this is the first time they showed the video of Cash. He's watching, he's going, oh shit, they caught me. I've lied and said I wasn't there. Now they know I was.
There's a chicken.
Yeah, I don't think it was wrong. Yeah, I agree. Okay, now it's dawning. He's going, oh shit, I'm in trouble.
The camera pans.
I've lied. I've said I was nowhere around. I said I was napping, resting peacefully on my bed or on the sofa in my house when my wife and child was savagely gunned down. And now someone goes up with this. And it's my voice. And there going to be people saying it's me. What do I do now? And you can see him coming to terms with the fact that he's guilty. The jury will know he's guilty.
Hey, Bubba.
Hold on.
There's a chicken.
The voice of Paul. He's with Chocolate Lab Cash. Alex is not on the way to his dad's house, nor is he napping. He actually spent Maggie and Paul's final moments with them.
Get back. Get back.
And at 8:49, the phone got any kind of further communication. That's not exactly true, though. It counted steps. And within 10 minutes, Maggie and Paul will be dead by multiple gunshot wounds. And that leaves that question of what in the world did Alec do from
There's a chicken
to getting in the vehicle and going to his mom's house? Right? And there's, this another reason that I wanted to do this video is because it highlights that they weren't arguing and fighting. They weren't yelling at each other. And it was a moment of passion and things just kind of went off the rails. You can hear them. They're lighthearted. It's just it's a day like any other day. Although Alex sounds not well.
Hey,
he's got a bird in his mouth.
Frustrated with the dog.
Bubba.
It's a guinea.
There's a chicken. Come here, Cat. Cat. Quit.
Okay. So, and I think somewhere I thought I put the date on this. It's been a while since I looked at it. Didn't I put the date on it? I did, right here. Richard Alexander Murdaugh, the day he lost his case, February the 1st, 2023, right? So that's, I believed from at least from February the 1st, I believed Nackety Yak that Murdaugh is guilty. And I haven't changed my mind on that. I believe in my heart and soul that he's absolutely guilty. No question about it, right? But here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look at how this thing has unfolded and the implications for the way that it has unfolded that may lead us to a really uncomfortable appeal granted, right? So, yes, Jim asked for a mistrial, and was it based on the 3-hour deliberation? I don't know what it was based on. Do y'all know? Anybody know? I don't know. Okay, now then, what I want to watch. So, we're going to do the sentencing speech, but what I want to show you now is we have a juror who has already begun to talk. And his name is Craig Moyer, I believe. Is that correct? All right. So, hold on. Okay. So, this is Craig Moyer. He is one of the jurors. And yeah, they cut it out. There is a clip floating around. I think they ended this one. But if you were watching this live, you would have noticed that as they followed Murdaugh out of the courtroom, they showed the damn jury. I was so frustrated when that happened because a lot of judges don't want the cameras in the courtrooms anymore. And these TV broadcasters, they better get their game together and stop accidentally showing things. They accidentally aired autopsy photographs. It was accidental, but it was done. They're going to mess it up in terms of being able to get having the cameras in the courtroom. So, I was a little irritated that they showed the full jury, but I don't think you can find it online. It looks like most people have they've shown good ethics by not highlighting the jurors because they're entitled to their privacy. Now then, and I would say this too, especially with the mob connections, the drug trafficking. I think it's a really good idea to keep these people anonymous, except for Craig. Craig couldn't get out the door fast enough to do an interview with ABC. I wish our jurors wouldn't do that, right? What do y'all think? Let's do a little mini discussion here, and then we'll play the video. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that jurors should... Do you think it robs the case of dignity when the jurors come out and begin to talk? Or do you think it's perfectly acceptable or perhaps even desirable? Some of us in the true crime community may be yelling at me right now going, what is she saying? Shut up, Jules. What? Don't say this. Okay, because a lot of us want to know the human dynamics that happen during deliberations, correct? A lot of people want that, but I don't know. Sometimes what did we see with Scott Peterson? One juror comes out and does what? Talks. And it it provides a platform for a successful appeal. Change sentencing. Right? She had no idea that could happen. It could have gone the wrong way. He could have actually been reversed or been given an opportunity for, time served or whatever. So they ultimately made the right choice, and I think they gave him life instead of the death penalty. But nevertheless, these jurors, they don't know the law. They don't really know what is acceptable for conversation. They don't know if they might insert, foot into mouth. They don't know. Just like Strawberry Shortcake, the juror from the Peterson trial. Okay, so I just think it's it might just be good policy for maybe for a judge to sort of warn the jurors. You can talk if you want, but you may want to rethink that or get an attorney for yourself before you talk, because you don't know if you might provide an opportunity for a successful appeal, like what happened in the Scott Peterson case, right? Dad dying, getting disbarred, being sued, wife wanting divorce, oxy addicted, not going well, and now losing half of what's left, and he offed his wife. All right. So let's go ahead. This is Craig Moyer. Craig elected to do this interview, and so that is why I'm covering it. If I was sitting in a bar somewhere and he's sitting on the bar stool next to me and starts telling me all of what he said in this interview, I would never put it on my channel. Never. But he did it. He said, I'm going to go in front of the cameras. I'm going to go on ABC News, no doubt, or no less, sorry, and speak my truth. So let's just listen to this. And I want to, before I hit the play button, I just want to remind you, just want to go through these numbers here. All right. 28 days of trial, 25 days of testimony and hearings, 75 witnesses, expert witnesses, people that knew them personally. At the very least, wouldn't you think you should go back through witness statements? And 181 minutes from getting the case to reading the verdict, or coming back and saying we have a verdict. So you can take off at least an hour. No more than 2 hours of actual deliberation, and I think it's probably more like 60 minutes to 90 minutes would be my guess. I've seen some people saying that the guy looks high. But they do have a big light shining in his face, to be fair. But listen to what he says. I just thought this was, I just thought this was interesting. And again, I'm thinking about from an appellate process. So let's see what happens. Let's see what he says.
News exclusive juror Craig Moyer breaking his silence, revealing how the jury came to their decision.
When you first got in the room, you took a vote?
It was 2 not guilty, 1 not sure, and 9 guilty.
Look at her face. Let's fill in the blank here. Everybody, it's Wild Speculation Friday. So shall we speculate on what she is thinking? I want everybody to type in, what do you think she's thinking right there? Look at her face. He says, our first vote that we took, there were 9 guilty. There was 1 unsure, don't know. And 2 not guilty? 2? What is she thinking? And as you type your answer, I'm going to take a little drink of water because I don't want to sound like Alec Murdaugh on the stand. Doing life my way. Shut up, fool. Okay. Didn't take too long to change their minds. Donna's honest soul. I have no idea what she's thinking. This is Wild Speculation Friday, Donna. Sky's the limit. It could be, ooh, gonna have me some spaghetti and meatballs tonight. When they reached the verdict, it would have taken time to get everyone back in court. Hope this interview goes well. I have a new Tesla in the driveway. That was a good one, Big Ups. Or, damn, I should have taken that bet. Looks like I want to spit it out. Me too, Sketty Nona. I think it's incredulity, Ceresia. Absolutely. Ceresia says she has a look of incredulity on her face. Same. Ooh, home cooked dinner sounds good. You know why? Do y'all know why I said spaghetti and meatballs? Because that's what I'm cooking for tonight. Appeals are going to have a field day with this. Hope we never have to find out, says River Queen. Looks like I want to spit it out. Very strong first vote. Ooh, Martin, very good, strong verse. I'm with Ceresia. I think she's looking at him like, did you really just say that? Do you expect the whole world to believe that there were 2 not guilties and 1 not sure, and you guys managed to change their mind in minutes? Really? That dog don't hunt. That's a country saying. Okay, so yeah, she's looking at him like, what? What did you just say? Not believable. Even the interviewer is saying, sir, that just simply is not believable.
What was your vote?
Guilty.
From the start?
Yes.
Moyer says it didn't take long to get everyone on the same page.
We started deliberating, going through the
evidence. Listen, it's crazy.
evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking. And about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating, we figured it out.
So
we figured it out. That's it. We done some talking and we figured it out. That's all. Case closed. That's all she wrote. Right? You went through the evidence. What? I'm sorry, sir. That dog don't hunt. Right? We went through the evidence. That's what he says. They went through the evidence. They started talking. They went through the evidence. He said it.
Your vote?
Guilty.
From the start?
Yes.
Moyer says it didn't take
before I ever heard a bit of evidence. It was guilty. I just knew it in my blood.
long to get everyone on the same page.
We started deliberating, going through the evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking. And about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating,
after all our deliberating, all of it, every last bit of our deliberating, we figured it out. That's it. We just figured it out. We went through all the evidence and we figured it out. Okay, what? What are you talking about, sir? Do you understand that this clip right here, Craig, Mr. Moyer, do you understand that this clip right here is going to be presented in the appeals process. Right now, today, Mr. Moyer has private investigators watching him. Do y'all know that? Right now, today, they're going through every friendship and business associate relationship that this man has ever had. And if they can find where they can make a case that they can connect him to some of Alec Murdaugh's shady business partners or business dealings, is going to get an appeal. They're going to say they told it was a hit and they fixed the jury and it was a done deal. There was a bomb threat. There was a bomb threat. After that, you think these jurors were going to take any chance at all to have the mob come after them? Sir, that bomb threat, that was it. We lost a good jury at that point. It's going to be crazy. The process is going to be kind of crazy, right? All right. Remember, it's Wild Speculation Friday. Let's see. New prosecution strategy. Wear down your jury so they have no interest in reviewing the science or fact that was presented in evidence. All right. Let me see. I'm checking my notes. Finally, and I think that Martin has already brought this up. This was my number 5, Martin. This was my big one. The biggest mistake, putting Murdaugh on the stand, it erased any need that the jurors had for going through the evidence, in my opinion. By being able to sit and watch him for 2 days on the stand, it developed in them psychologically this belief, this feeling, I know the guy. I don't need to look at the evidence. I know the guy. And I think that's where the defense went wrong. That was number 5. That was the big one. They never should have put him on the stand because it makes the jury think they know them. And good God, they knew that the financial crimes were coming in. The lies, they tried to even get in the question of infidelity. Oh, come on, y'all. Be honest. This is a man who is so focused on the high life. I don't mean high from pills. I mean rich, wealthy, right? Being powerful, being important in the community, being a big shot, the way he throws around, oh man, I'm just going to do a little favor for you, little lady. Oh, I got some friends down there. I can help you out. Let's just remember who your friends are, because friends help friends. You know what I mean? Rules and laws and things like that aren't made for friends. Yeah. So this is his persona. And the juror heard all that. They saw the tears. They saw it all. And they now know him to be what? The kind of guy that we hate. Those rich muckety mucks. Those big elitist new world order kind of people that we just hate. Anybody with that much money is up to no good, right? Am I right about this? Remember, we're talking about jury consultant, the location of where these jurors live, their worldview, how they interface with the place they live, correct? You want to know one of the reasons that I am aware of these things? Because I grew up in one of those towns. That's right. I grew up in a place that had 400 people. The nearest city, the big city, 5,000 people in the Bible Belt. I don't need an interpreter to listen to them talk. I understand it just very fine. I'm telling you, This is a worldview, and our worldview affects the way that we interface with information and knowledge. Fact. If you grew up in Malibu, a beach town, your worldview of a parent's ability, a father's ability to murder their wife and child because they're using opiates is different. Maybe not dramatically different, but maybe in a way that you would never voice, but it might actually come out in your thoughts. For example, we know that when we hear about outrageous, audacious crimes, we nearly always stop and interject ourselves into it. We say, wait a minute, would I do that? How many of you notice doing that? When you hear, oh, Alec Murdaugh killed his son and his wife, would I do that? Chris Watts killed his 2 little girls and his wife. Would my husband do that? I wonder if any of our friends would do that. Do I know a guy that might do what Chris Watts did? How many of you do it? Don't lie. We all do it. It's natural. It's human nature. It's how we make new memories. We have a memory structure. When we're exposed to some new information, we have to modify the new information so that it fits in with what we already know. Accommodation. That's what it's called. So if you are listening to this and you got a guy who you're not rich, you have to work hard. You're working class. It's tough to make 40 hours a week working out in the damn sun. It's terrible. It's hard to work 4 10-hour shifts as a nurse in the hospital. It's hard. It's terrible. And you look at these people running around in their expensive cars and 1,700-acre plantation type home, and they're taking quick little jaunts out into the middle of the sea for fishing. When me and you go down to the pond with our cane pole, you're going to look at these people in a way that's different. You say to yourself, I'm a God-fearing person. I follow the rules. I work hard. I give my tithing, and I do it right. I'm not rich, but I've got everything I ever need, and I'm going to find my way into heaven. But those Murdaughs living out on the plantation or living out there near the beach, those guys, you don't make that kind of money unless you're doing something wrong. You don't make that kind of money unless there's laws being broken. And what do we know about attorneys? Oh, they know how to break laws and not get caught, don't they? Hell, he did it for 10 damn years. You think the people living in that town didn't know something strange was going on at Palmetto? How come when I get overdrawn $15.47, it suddenly doubles because there's a $15 charge? How's that Murdaugh get away with all that? I heard he is in debt over $1 million. And Palmetto, he's buddies with that rich muckety muck who's president of Palmetto. They just let him have any money he wants to, and that's our money. But they don't listen to us because we're good, God-fearing people, and we work our butts off. But those rich muckety mucks, they get together in Charleston. They drink their mint juleps on the veranda. And they just talk about how they can steal our money from us. That's right. We know their kind. I went to college with one of them. I had to work hard to get through college. I couldn't dare get caught cheating because if I got caught cheating, not only would I be kicked out of college, but I would be blackballed in the whole state and no university would let me in. Not a Murdaugh. No, no, no. Of course he got caught cheating. They all cheat. That's how they get through life. And now I'm on the jury. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I'm not saying they got it wrong. I believe 100% they got it right. I'm the one that made the video on February the 1st and said the day he lost his trial. This trial was over on February 1, y'all. That is the absolute truth. It was finished on February 1. That is probably the reason why they decided to put him on the stand. But I think that was their number one big mistake. I think when they put him on the stand, that little diatribe that I just went through, kind of pretending to be one of the jurors, or not one of the jurors, but one of the people in town. When they put him up on the stand, all of their speculations were suddenly verified. So he did steal all that money. We knew it. We've all been gossiping about it for 15 years that they were stealing, but now we know it's the truth. You see what I mean? So it was a terrible idea to put this Murdaugh guy on the stand. It would have been a better decision if he had not been a Murdaugh. It would have been a better decision if he had not been well known or his family notorious, the connections with Bulwer, all of that. But it was just the perfect storm. This jury didn't need to deliberate. They, like I said, February 1, you hear his voice right there at the pens with Maggie and Paul. It's over. There's not even, for example, being a person that, from the country and whatnot. Here's what I'm thinking. I know what it's like to jump in the golf cart and head up toward the house. I know what that's like. I know how long it takes to get there. And then, walking up on the porch and kicking the dirt off your feet before you open up that kitchen door and step in, right? I'm going to tell you something. 2 shotgun blasts and you're standing inside of a door of a frame-built home. There's no doubt that there's been a shotgun blast. True. Nobody ever brought that up. Why? Why didn't they ever bring that up? Alec Murdaugh would have heard those gunshots. And maybe they could say, oh, well, he'd have attributed it to some hunter or something, so it didn't do us any good. I don't care. You still would have been relating to the juror members who live that lifestyle, and they know that. They'd be like, that's right. Hell yeah. Ain't no doubt he'd have heard that shotgun and he'd have come running. Even if he was dead asleep in the bed or on the sofa, 5 rifle shots, boom, 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 boom. He would have been up and running thinking my kid and my wife may be in trouble. We don't have any hunters out here right now. Why am I hearing this so close to the house? Put it in perspective for you. That house was about as close as a football field from where the kennels were, as a crow flies, right? Not on the road, but as a crow flies. So I want you to go stand on one end of a football field and get your husband or your wife to fire, probably husband, to fire a 12 gauge shotgun twice on the other end of the shotgun, and then say to yourself, would that have gotten my attention? Because trust me, it's like a cannon going off. And that's not even the 5, 6, 7 shots that happened afterwards. You get 2 shotgun blast cannons, boom, boom. And then quickly, bap, 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 bap. No. A country person hears that and they're like, what? Well, somebody just, killed something. And I'm on 1,700 acres. Nobody's out there hunting right now. Is somebody on my land? Maybe I better go get them. Maybe I better call the game warden. So to me, that would have been a big one too. But anyway, let's keep going with this.
Figured it out.
So it took basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision.
Probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
He says it was this piece of video featuring Alec's voice.
And what did I make on my video? February the 1st, the day that Alec Murdaugh lost his case.
At the crime scene moments before the murders that convinced him.
Hear his voice clearly.
Yep.
And everybody else could too.
Yep.
Alec finally admitting it was him for the first time a year and a half after the murders.
When he said it.
But the question I have, if everybody knew it was him, as this juror said, what about the 2 not guilties and the one I don't knows? I can definitely see the I don't know being easily swayed by just logical, hey, look, that's his voice. Here's the time that they believe that the deaths occurred. How did he get from there to the house and then driving down the road as Maggie's phone is ending up in the woods? Okay, I can see an I don't know being easily swayed. But the not guilties, they had some reason to think not guilty. This is very curious.
It was him. Were you surprised?
I was very surprised.
Why?
That was his only savior right there.
For some people, hard to understand how a husband, especially would kill
What
their
about
own
Chris
son.
Watts and those two little babies? You've had sons of kings attempt assassinations. No, no. People, family members, been killing each other for a long time. Sadly,
What made you so sure that he had?
His responses, how quick he was with the defense, and his lies, steady lies.
Did you feel like he was a liar?
A good liar,
a good liar. Listen,
not good enough.
listen.
Moyer also not convinced by moments like this. Alec appearing emotional on the stand.
Listen.
What did you think when Alec Murdaugh took the stand?
I didn't think much of him.
Really?
Really. I didn't see any true remorse or.
Okay, but sir, if he's not guilty, if he didn't hurt them, there would not be remorse. Now listen to this.
Any compassion or anything.
Even though he cried a lot on the
He
stand.
never cried.
What? What? He didn't cry.
He never cried. What do you mean by
Blowed
that?
snot. He blowed snot like an old bull out in the pasture. That killed me. That was fun. That was a crazy answer. So what do you guys think? What do you think? Did he not cry? This guy said there's no tears. What do you think? Maybe they changed their minds so quickly through peer pressure and sheer exhaustion after 6 weeks of tedious testimony. Yeah, that was my position, that this jury was so worn out and so tired that by the time they're tasked with getting this information, they're given in the in the middle of the afternoon. I just think they didn't have it in them to push back, right? Alex stripped down as the hose. What? Alex stripped down at the. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's probably logical. Yeah. He never showed compassion, like saying, I should have been there and could have saved them. Nothing like that. Well, yeah, I'm with you on the no compassion deal. I mean, he's very centric. He really focuses on himself. You know what I mean? He has a hard time not thinking about Alex. There's drip drops of that in every comment he makes. Me, what about me? Me, my perspective, me. There's very little regard to how others might be experiencing things. And you hear that pattern with people that are, narcissist personality disorder. We were ear gear when using these weapons. Now they're deafening. Wait a minute. We were ear gear. I don't understand what that means, Nick Yak. I'm sorry. That's what I thought too. No one was around to see him naked, so why not? Like Buster eating while going through the autopsy. Oh, I saw that, Diane. That was kind of hard to understand, right? Like you would think this is very difficult testimony. Yeah, that was very, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that since that day that I saw it when it happened. I was like, he must be ravenous, right? Or maybe it's, I don't know. Even I had some parts where I had to fast forward because I just kind of, you know, it's a terrible feeling to think about the way they died. I think the one that really gets me is Maggie, but also, I mean, you know, we're both mothers, both women. But with Paul, my hope is that he wasn't aware for very long what was happening. That's my hope. But we know Maggie was horrified. We know she physically was in pain, but more than that, I think she was horrified that her husband was doing this. I think she was horrified. In such close proximity, you can almost smell fake emotion. And that's the problem, right? Doing it Life My Way. They put this joker on the stand. He's sitting right there, nearly in the jury box, 4 feet from the jury box. You think those people didn't know he was faking it? One of the things that really stood out to me, I'm going to take this lovely woman off the screen. Sorry about that. Well, here, let's see if we can get him back up there.
Tears?
No tears.
How did you know he wasn't crying?
Because I saw his eyes.
Now that's kind of scary, right? That's sort of like Clint Eastwood Make My Day kind of moment. He's looking at the guy's eye. He says he blew snot, right? And I thought, that's kind of crazy. Why is he saying that? Obviously, the guy had to be crying or else he wouldn't be able to blow snot, correct? Sorry for my words. I know it's kind of gross. But you see the way he answered about the eyes? He said, I saw his eyes. He's 4 feet away from me. I saw him, and there were no tears. There was not water coming from that man's eyes. That's what he's saying. So you know what I'm going to do when I finish this video? I'm going to go back through his testimony. I'm going to see if I can find a tear. All right? Okay. Doing Life My Way. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful Friday afternoon, okay? Mrs. Naturally New Orleans. Laissez le bon temps brûler. How are you today, New Orleans? He wanted to take the stand no matter what. Well, it was his time to shine, right? His day in the sun, Miss New Orleans. He probably put cayenne pepper up his nose. Maybe. He never really worried about the shooter still being there and him being in danger. So that was an excellent point. And the other point was, he's just running around town. Everybody's afraid of, oh, Alec, there's people driving by the front of the building. Be careful. People are saying, be careful, be careful. He just seems to have not a care in the world in the days after the shootings. Wouldn't you be terrified? Would you let Buster leave your side? I wouldn't. If my son had said, okay, I'm headed out, going back to work, going back to college, I'd have been like, the hell you say? Oh, no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay right here, and we're going to have paid security outside because, we're rich. No, it would not have been life, as usual. I watched the whole trial, every sin. He took the stand because he is a narcissist and probably said to himself, I am the only guy that can save myself. There you go. He looked at those jury members like they were all stupid, and they were beneath him. And it was his job to get up there and tell them how the cow ate the cabbage, right? I'm the only one. Poot and Jim, just sit down and get out the way and let me handle this. Am I right? I guarantee you that's what he was going in his mind. The issues were dry. Only once did I ever see a real tear on his face. Yeah, but he was snot slinging like an old bull out in the damn, cabbage patch. He was. All right. Let's see. Finally, we are going. I think that was the end of the interview. So thank you for your insights, Craig Moyer.
I was this close to him.
Moyer says he also didn't buy the defense's argument that Alec didn't have enough time to commit the crime and create an alibi.
The defense said there's no way he could have done all these things, clean everything up, get it all ready, and then go to his mom's.
Now, what is Mr. Moyer thinking right here? Because he's looking at her like, I don't care what you say. I heard him at the dog kennels. That's all I need to know. Yeah, but Mr. Moyer, there was not enough time for it to play out like the prosecution is saying it played out. And he's going, I heard his voice at the dog kennels. I know, sir, but I don't think he's the one that pulled the trigger, because how did he get himself cleaned up? And he didn't have wet hair. I heard his voice at the kennel. That's what I said in my video. It's a day he lost his case.
Come back, short amount of time.
I think there's just enough time.
Just enough time. I don't know. What do y'all think? All right. This is so interesting. So interesting. That's another factor, Martin, that this guy got away with lying his whole life, or was he trained to be a liar? Same way we see Buster not showing emotion. Is this something in the family that was sort of ingrained in them from childhood? Don't let other people see how you feel. Don't let others, don't show, things that are hard for you. Don't let the cat out of the bag when it comes to your emotions. You got to keep it all, you got to have a poker face and play it all, tight to the chest, right? There's a lot of families, if there's a lot of potential problems with law enforcement, think Don Wells, Summer Wells family. You think those kids weren't taught to keep their mouths shut? You think those kids weren't taught, you keep your mouth shut, you go to school, don't you say a word about anything you see or hear out here? You think that didn't happen? And then, yeah, River Queen is exactly correct. If you think about the upper crust of South Carolinian society, that's part of that, dignified, privileged life. You keep a stiff upper lip. Don't ever let them see you sweat. Don't complain. Don't explain. Ain't that right, Harry? So yeah, I think that's another factor that is a problem with people that come from affluence, is sometimes they develop a really unhealthy relationship with their own emotions and the truth. It's more about appearances. It's more about the shallowness rather than the deeper motivations and drives that we experience. It can lead people down some very dark paths, right? All right. Finally, the greatest quote that I've ever heard in a trial: let no dead horse go unbeaten. Boom, mic drop, poot. I've heard that saying before. You'd beat it. You'd beat a dead horse to death, right? But never have I heard that sentiment spoken with such eloquence and righteous indignation. Please, Judge, do we have to hear this again? Is this the prosecution's strategy to just wear us all down? Here we go, another dead horse, and he just belabor the point just over and over, and he stops, he catches himself, and you see, the realization, and he stands in his most theatrical Shakespearean way with his fist elevated, screaming, Let no dead horse go unbeaten. Thank you, Mr. Harpootlian, for that. I'll carry that with me to the day that I die. All right. Like a beggar on horseback, rides into hell. Do 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 do. Maybe no wet hair, but he had a bath towel on the driver's seat of his truck. Yes, he did, Rousey. Yes, he did. All right, so we are finally going to listen to what are we going to listen to? We're going to listen to the judge. Here we go. Man, he was a great judge. No emotion. It was wonderful. Present, share audio. And here come the judge. Yeah. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this?
Both of them, like everyone else, was unaware of who he really was. No one knew who. And I could see the real Alex Murdaugh when he looked at me. The depravity, the callousness, the selfishness of these crimes are stunning. The lack of remorse and family that has suffered of what position any person took, because this family has suffered and they've had to suffer very hard. My condolences. This is overwhelming. We'll address the court. Victim impact people who want to speak at this time, but I will address the court briefly. And I don't need Your Honor to repeat the evidence that Your Honor just heard for the past 6 weeks, but it is overwhelming. And it shows this man to be a cunning manipulator, a man who placed himself above all others, including his family. A man who violated the trust of so many, including his friends, his family, his partners, his profession, but most of all, Maggie and Paul. This is a very complicated situation, and I want to offer my condolences to the family that has suffered here. We have tried very hard to be
Keep your eye on the sheriff.
sensitive regardless.
This guy right here, keep an eye on him when he's back behind Alec. Don't look at Alec.
This family has suffered, and they've had to suffer in the public eye. And I want to offer my condolences to this family. I want to offer it for
Buster
Maggie,
did
Paul,
not
and Mr.
respond, did he?
Randolph, too, who I had the pleasure of working with on
Alec
occasion.
looks very pale today.
But the reality remains is that despite all this attention, this case is about Maggie Murdaugh and Paul
John
Murdaugh.
Marvin
And I'm
scooting
so
over to give
thankful
support to
that the
Buster.
jurors
That's
gave
good.
them
I think John
the
Marvin
voice.
must be a pretty nice guy.
You heard about Paul. Obviously, there was
He
a book case,
decided
but you
not
also
to become an
heard him
attorney.
described as a fun-loving young man, a person who loved life, a person who would do anything for his friends, for anyone. And he's cut down as he was just starting to live his life. You heard about Maggie. You heard how sweet she was. You heard that she was a girl's girl who adapted to the outdoorsman life of her sons, how much she loved
Buster doesn't look well at
sister,
all. He looks very, very
her
ashen.
brother-in-law and their children. And she was cut down in the prime of her life. Both of them, like everyone else, was unaware of who he really was. No one who thought they knew this man.
Maybe didn't sleep last
No one
night.
who thought they were close to this man knew who he really was. And Your Honor, that's chilling. And I've looked in his eyes, and he liked to stare me down as he would walk by me during this trial. And I could see the real Alex Murdaugh.
Now watch it.
when
Oh,
he looked at me.
watch the
The
sheriff.
depravity, the callousness, the selfishness of these crimes are stunning. The lack of remorse and the effortless way in which he lies,
The sheriff
including
hates
here sitting
Alec
right over
Murdaugh.
there in this witness stand. Your Honor, a man like that a man like this man should never be allowed to be among free, law-abiding citizens again. I would submit to you that the only just sentence here to give justice for Maggie and Paul is the maximum, and that would be 2 consecutive life sentences. Thank you, Your Honor.
You indicate that no victim would like to speak at this time. Would any victim like to speak at any time during these proceedings?
Your Honor, one of the things we did early on.
I'm curious. I'm going to take a minute and get y'all's thoughts and opinions. How do you experience that no victim spoke? I don't really have an opinion on it either way. I do think that if I was a family member, I wouldn't speak. Well, for a lot of reasons. Number one, I would feel like the prosecution and the jury had spoken for me and that they had done very well. Number one. And I don't know, especially in this situation, I don't think I would have wanted to speak just because I wouldn't have wanted I wouldn't have wanted to be out there in the public eye any more than I had to be, right? So I don't think I would have. What do y'all think? Yeah, I think they definitely removed guns. They removed the blackout. I was listening to an interview with a woman who went to school with John Marvin and Alec. She did not like Alec, but she likes John Marvin. Yeah, John Marvin is the family fixer. Yeah. I think it's so telling, too, that he did not go into law, isn't it? It's interesting. But I find myself inherently liking John Marvin when he was on the stand.
Obviously, as I just said, it's a very complicated situation, but we made the decision early on. We've had our victim advocate here who's been doing a wonderful job, regardless of the viewpoints of any individual family member, to provide aid and service to them. And we made that decision. I'm informed by our victim advocate that none of them wish to speak. The defense can certainly address that, but that's what I am informed. But they certainly were offered the opportunity as is required. And I want to commend our victim advocate on the excellent job she did in handling this complex situation that we wanted to be sensitive to, because again, none of us are not mindful of the fact of the suffering of this family.
I noticed Sled Chief Mark Keel is here. Would you like to?
Yeah, that was not the norm.
Any matters? Chief?
But this is how strong they were. Don't attack our police.
Very proud of our agents, the work they've done, and proud of the partnership we've had with the Attorney General's office as we've had for many years. And again, we're here to see the justice is served, and we believe that.
That was a good move. That was a really good move.
Your Honor, Mr. Griffin and I would have no comment. The defendant would like to address the court, though.
Again, another shock. He's not done yet.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Pawpaw.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I don't think further comment is necessary, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Murdaugh, if you'll come before the court for sentencing. This has been perhaps one of the most troubling cases, not just for me as a judge, for the state, for the defense team, but for all of the citizens in this community, all the citizens in this state, and as we've seen based on the media coverage throughout the nation.
I think so, Blonde PT.
You have a wife who's been killed, murdered, a son savagely murdered, a lawyer, a person from a respected family who has controlled justice in this community for over a century, a person whose grandfather's portrait hang at the back of the courthouse that I had to have ordered removed in order to ensure that a fair trial was had by both the state and the defense. And I've sat
I think so too,
through
Martin.
the trial. Not only have I sat through the trial, but also as the presiding judge of the state grand jury, sat through and participated in the issuance of search warrants of various sorts, bond hearings, and have had to consider many things. And we have this case, and I'm also assigned to preside over 99 others, at least.
That's
99
crazy.
other cases.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
Though testimony has come up regarding many of those other cases, I will not make any comment with regard to any other pending matter, as I have been assigned those cases as well.
Isn't that amazing? It's amazing to think about the enormity of his
It's also
crimes.
particularly troubling, Mr. Murdaugh, because as a member of the legal community and a well-known member of the legal community, you've practiced law before me, and we've seen each other at various occasions throughout the years. And it was especially heartbreaking for me to see you
Exactly, Rousey.
go in the media from being a grieving father who lost a wife and a son to being the person indicted and convicted of killing them.
Agreed,
And you've
Pussycat.
engaged in
I
such
agree with you.
duplicitous conduct here in the courtroom, here on the witness stand, and as established by the testimony throughout the time leading from the time of the indictment and prior to the indictment throughout the trial to this moment in time. Certainly, you have no obligation to say anything other than saying not guilty. And obviously, as appeals are probably expected or absolutely expected, I would not expect a confession of any kind.
They wanted him to admit it. He wanted it so
Murder
bad.
cases over the past 22 years, I have yet to find a defendant who could go there, who could go back to that moment in time when they decided to pull the trigger or to otherwise murder someone. I have not been able to get anyone, any defendant, even those who have confessed to being guilty, to go back and explain to me what happened at that moment in time when they opted to pull the trigger, when they opted to commit the most heinous crimes known to man. in this case qualifies under our death penalty statute
It does qualify.
based on the statutory aggravating circumstances of 2 or more people being murdered by the defendant by one act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct.
And it was this moment that I was like, oh my God, is he going to give him the death penalty? Now, they did make that agreement early on before they started, a lot of the hearings and whatnot. They agreed the death penalty would be off the table. But I think they did that because number one, he's a well-known person, and it would be much more difficult to get people to agree to kill him than to get them to agree he's guilty and throw away the key, right? It'd be easier to get life than it would for get a group to give him the death penalty. But on another hand, I thought that perhaps it was sort of a nod to the family and the history of the family to say, listen, he's a slime and we know he's a slime. And in order to kind of negate some of the negative publicity, we agreed to take the death penalty off the table to spare the history of the family and to kind of dilute some of the excitement around the case. If you would agree to not go on the attack and fight and, do all these public things. And I think the judge and the prosecutors just sort of felt a bit protective maybe of the legal system itself, that they didn't want to smear it any further by taking this previously, South Carolina royalty and then put a needle in his arm and kill him in the name of the state. I think they wanted to avoid that whole negative publicity against the prosecutors and the state, because there's a group of people that are completely and totally against death penalty no matter what. Just look at what happened with Nicholas Cruz in Florida. And it would have really brought some additional money and some additional resources to fight the prosecution. And so I think it was a really great decision to take it off the table with this particular defendant. I think it was a good idea.
I don't question at all the decision of the state not to pursue.
You're right, River Queen. I believe as you do. I think he's done. He was there for the verdict.
In this courtroom and look around the many portraits of judges and other court officials, and reflect on the fact that over the past century, your family, including you,
amen, Sheila,
have been prosecuting people here in this courtroom, and many have received the death penalty, probably for lesser conduct. Remind me of the expression you gave on the witness stand. Was it tangled?
Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first practice to deceive.
Oh, what tangled web we weave. What did you mean by that?
When I lied, I continue to lie.
And the question is, when will it end? When will it end? And it's ended already for the jury, because they've concluded that you continued to lie and lied throughout your testimony. And perhaps with all the throng of people here, they, for the most part, all believe, or 80, 90%, 99% believe that you continue to lie now when your statement of denial to the court. Perhaps you believe that it does not matter, that there's nothing that can mitigate a sentence given the crimes that were committed.
He has no redeeming factors. Imagine that.
You know, a notice of alibi was
John
filed
Harmon
in this
didn't like
case
that.
by counsel in November, and we conducted a hearing, pretrial hearing, in which you claimed to have been
Thank you, River Queen. Walter Scott.
someplace else at the time the crime was committed. Then, after all of the witnesses placed you at the scene of the crime, at the last minute, or last minutes or days, you switched courses and admitted to being there.
Because there was a recording.
That necessitated more lies and continued to lie. And I say, where will it end? It's already ended for many who have heard you and concluded that it'll never end. But within your own soul, you have to deal with that. And I know you have to.
Look at Buster.
See Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you. I'm sure.
And every night.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And they will continue to do so. And reflect on the last time they looked you in the eyes.
That was brutal right there.
I don't know person who's always been such a gregarious, friendly person and cause your life to be tangled in such a weave web, such a situation that yours have spun into.
Look at the sheriff.
And it's so unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
Because you had such a lovely family of such friendly people, including you. And to go from that to this. You know, your license to practice law has been stripped away from you. Turned from lawyer to witness. And now have an opportunity to make your final appeal as an ex-lawyer. And it's almost, it's really surprising that you're waiving this right at this time. And if you opt to do so, it's on you. You're not compelled to say anything. But you have the opportunity to do so.
He's not going to admit it, Judge. He's going to appeal the hell out of it.
Judge, I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent. I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son, Pawpaw.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills. Maybe you become another person. I've seen that before.
Yep.
The person standing before me was not the person who committed the crime, though it's the same individual. We'll leave that at that. Before announcing sentence on these cases, with regard to all of the other pending cases, are any of them here in Colleton, or I'm sure some of them are? Half of them, or?
I don't have that in front of me, but there are a substantial number of charges here. There's some in Hampton, Orangeburg, Beaufort, Allendale.
He was breaking the law everywhere he went.
We might have worn out our welcome here in Colleton. They have been, and I'll take this opportunity to thank Sheriff Hill and all of the court officials and really everyone I've met and dealt with while here in Colleton County. Just been great. But without any delay, we're going to schedule some of the other matters. I know Mr. Harpootlian's scheduling is complicated, and you've sacrificed quite a bit to be able to be here defending.
I think that means that Poot won't be on the other cases.
Attorney General's office, with all the other many things and obligations you have, and to be able to have the Attorney General here, Alan Wilson, for the period of time that he's devoted to being here along with everyone else. It's been quite a sacrifice. But there are other victims whose cases deserve to be heard. And this case has jumped some of those other cases, perhaps jumped it because of this case resulting in an assault on the integrity of the judicial system in our state, law enforcement in our state. Even during this trial, the law enforcement have been maligned for the past 5 or 6 weeks by one who had access to the wheels of justice, to be able to deflect the investigation. And as the evidence is pointed out in this case, the looming storm that Mr. Waters talked about, I can just imagine on that day, June 7th, when a lawyer is confronted and confesses to having stolen over $500,000 from a client. And he has a tiger like Mark Tinsley on his tail, pursuing discovery in the case involving the death of Mallory Beach. And having a father, for the most part, on his deathbed. I could imagine, or really can't imagine, but I know it had to have been quite a bit going through your mind on that day. But amazingly, to have you come and testify that it was just another ordinary day.
That's right. Well said.
That my wife and son and I were out just enjoying life. Not credible, not believable. You can convince yourself about it, but obviously you have the inability to convince anyone else about that.
That's right.
So if you made any such arguments as a lawyer, you would lose every case of that, like that. Cases you will never have an opportunity to argue anymore, except perhaps your own as you sit in the Department of Corrections.
All right. That is another important point that I wanted to make in this video, is this guy behind bars. I want you to stop. Yeah, that was a massive takedown. Just utter and complete respect for this judge, right, River Queen? Absolutely on point, powerful. The types of things that so many probably throughout the years have wanted to say to this Joker, but he was who he was. He's coming from the power and position of his parent, of his father and his grandfather, and you know what this is? This is the ultimate case of affluenza, isn't it? That this is exactly the little poot head that grew up in the lap of luxury, money's no object, ultimate luxury. He probably bullied people in school. He was probably Mr. Wonderful. I mean, he thought he was Mr. Wonderful. And he grows up into this guy with zero empathy and conscience. 99 other cases. This is zero conscience. To steal the money from a young guy whose mother was killed prematurely in life, and that the family is very poor, have no resources at all. He just steals it. He just takes it like he's entitled to it. Zero conscience. Zero conscience. And so while we've heard people say, oh, well, if you're willing to spend, to steal all this money, it doesn't mean that you also have the ability to be a murderer. Are you sure about that? With the kind of money this guy stole and the people that he stole it from, people whose world would have completely changed with a little bit of help, living paycheck to paycheck, being on public assistance, a little bit of help could have completely turned their lives into a completely different direction. And this guy just takes it like he is God. No conscience, no empathy, a feeling of superiority and being special, that others, this is the Machiavellian reactance, that people are there to help him get what he wants. They're expendable. They're commodities to be used and discarded. Yeah, a guy that steals money like this guy did has the ability for murder because there's no empathy and there's absolutely no conscience. And those are two of the things that mitigate our passionate response of attack when somebody wrongs us, or we have the impression that somebody wrongs us. So yeah, this jury got it right. I have no doubt about that. I believe that on February 1 that he was guilty, no matter what they said, he was guilty. They definitely got it right. And I want you to imagine this. He's a Class A attorney, right? He's now going to be in jail. And guess who's going to be getting free attorney help from jail? There are criminals right now in the South Carolina penal system that are going to be benefiting from his expertise. That should have been one of the directives in the sentencing, is that, okay, life in prison without parole. Oh yeah. And you may not have access to any type of legal journals. You may not help others with legal problems. You may not act as an attorney giving information in the prison. Yep. They should have done that because he is now in there and he's going to use his expertise to get special treatment in the prison. He's going to get extra food. He's going to get treats. He'll probably get books, and it'll all be done as a barter system in exchange. He'll be bartering with other inmates, and he will be bartering with prison guards.
Anything further?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments in the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdaugh. I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life for the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably love so much. I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive. Under the statute involving possession of a weapon during a violent crime, there is no sentence where a life sentence is imposed on other indictments.
That sheriff hates this man. I don't know what's going on there, but
That
he
is the sentence
hates
of the
him with a
court, and you are
passion.
remanded to the State Department of Corrections. And officers may carry forth on the imposition.
And your special treatment is now over, Mr. Murdaugh. You'll never be treated like a human being again. They do say that he looked at Buster and he said, "I'm sorry," to Buster. So make of that what you will.
Yes, sir.
I thought that was interesting.
Yes, sir.
And he kind of steps away from the door right there. I thought that was kind of interesting too. Maybe it was the shackles on his legs. I don't know. Kind of looked like he was scared to go through them. All right. So then they go on and they have this discussion, about upcoming cases, thanking everybody for all their hard work and everything they've done to help. And then I thought it was very interesting to watch what goes on after they all leave. Just watch the players and how they were relating to one another. So he hit his gavel. He said, "Okay, court's adjourned." Now watch the players. Poot immediately heads over to Waters. Immediately. And I think he said, my opinion, I think he said, "What were we going to do? We had no defense. It was terrible." Watch this interaction. First, Waters isn't really listening. Now watch. Poot's like, "I don't know what we were going to do. We had no defense." See him spread his arms out. And they start laughing. They're yucking it up. They're like, "I know, man. Y'all were screwed from the very beginning."